Okay, so there's my card blank, and the first thing I'm going to do is put a post-it note along the fold line just to protect the back of the card while I'm working. So if I place that there, that should do it. So the back of my card is now protected while I work. And then to take my stamp, I have my acrylic block. This is the stamp set from Stampers Anonymous I'm using. It's called Letter to Santa, and that's the image we're using. So I'll take that one off the card and place that on my acrylic block. Now we need to use a waterproof ink for this because we're going to be painting afterwards. So I'm going to use Ranger's Archival ink in jet black. You could also use StazOn or VersaFine, that would also work well. So just ink your stamp up well. I like to kind of drag my ink pad over a little bit and then finish off with tapping, just to make sure it's well covered. And this image actually has a very grainy finish to it, so it can look like you haven't stamped it properly, but 9 times out of 10 you actually have. So stamp that on my card in its final position, which is going to be slightly over to the left hand side. And there is our image. Now I'm just going to put a little bit more ink on my stamp again. Not too fussy this time about the quality of the image I get, because I'm just going to stamp it onto some scrap paper and then cut it out to use as a mask. So I'll do the cutting now, and I'll see you back here in a minute when I've finished. So there is our finished mask cut out. You can see by the ink around the edges I've actually used this one already. If you do spend the time to cut your masks out carefully, remember to save them, don't throw them away. Keep it with the stamp, and then you have one ready made anytime you want to do the same thing again. So I always save my masks. So if you have some repositionable adhesive, put that on the back. That will help and make things a bit easier. I don't have any, so I'm just going to lay my mask on my stamped image on the card and line it up so it's in the right position, and just leave that there for now. And I'm going to do the snow. Now I'm using this stamp, which is actually a paint splatter kind of stamp. Not a stamp you might think at first glance you would use a lot, but in fact it's incredibly useful. Not only for snow, but for any kind of extra background texture you want to include in something. I find it really, really useful. So put that on my block, and I'm going to ink that up now with Versamark ink, because I'm going to be doing some heat embossing. So just tap all over your stamp. Make sure the Versamark is all on there. Again, this doesn't really have to be too perfect because it's just kind of little blotches of snow anyway, so but we'll try and do a good job. Okay, so that's inked up now. Make sure my mask is in perfect position. I think that's about right. And then stamp my snow over the top. There we are. And now to apply the embossing powder. So I'm going to place a piece of scrap paper underneath my card, sprinkle liberally with my white embossing powder in the places where I stamped my snowflakes. Give it a shake and just tap it to get rid of the excess. And then of course, as ever, put my spare powder immediately back into the bottle. Now if you find, as I have here, some powder has strayed onto the Santa areas, just take an artist's paintbrush and just brush those to remove the extra powder. So we're ready to emboss. I'm going to take my heat gun and work it over the powder to set it. So that's our embossing finished. Now to apply the ink for the background. I'm going to place my mask back over my Santa Claus, take my ink application tool with a pad that I use for broken china ink, take my broken china pad and just apply ink to the card, working from the mask outwards, and try and keep your mask in place while you do this. I don't want to take it right to the edges of the card because I'm going to have a darker blue there. So I think that's okay now. So I'm going to switch my pad for the one I use for my faded jeans ink and start with that pad. And this time I'm going to work from the outside of the card in. I can probably even ditch my mask at this point and just start on my non-stick mat, tilting away from the card and work in from the edges. And there we go, there is our Santa with his sky and snow behind him. I always think it's kind of magical how those snowflakes just appear when you start inking with the blue. So now to colour in Santa himself. I'm going to take my fired brick pad, just rub it on my non-stick craft mat and then spritz it once with a little water, and take my water brush. If you don't have a water brush, you can just use a regular artist's paintbrush with a pot of water, and just pick up that red colour from the mat and start painting in his costume. I'll continue painting this and I'll see you back here in a minute when I've finished. So Santa's outfit is now painted. I'm just going to quickly mop up that ink from my mat before it gets on my card. And I'm going to colour in the holly on his hat. I'm using two Marvy watercolour pens in two different shades of green. And I'm just going to go over and quickly fill in the holly leaves with the lighter colour of the two. Okay, so that's that, and then take your second green and just go over some of the areas to give a variation in colour. Because not all holly leaves are the same green, of course. And then finally I'm going to take my red Stickles glitter glue and just place some little dots of that around among the holly to represent the berries and to give a little bit of Christmas sparkle to it. And I've just seen a holly leaf that I've missed, so I'm just going to colour that one in. Maybe a little bit here too. And I think I'm done. There is our finished card. Obviously I need to leave the stickles to dry, but there we go. I hope that was helpful and good luck with making your own. Thanks, bye bye.